So hello YouTube, this is UngarToTheMax here, and we are coming at you with another episode of the Sports Room. And we are also recording live on Facebook. So feel free to join us on Facebook. You can ask me or my special guest, who I will introduce in 1 second, any question you would like. Today we are talking Green Bay Packers football, as well as some other topics as well. But without further ado, let me introduce my guest for today's show. He is, I think, a University of Michigan grad. Do I have that right?
You are not correct, but I am a Michigan football fan.
Michigan football fan, but University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee graduate. There we go.
It.
Okay.
Got it.
Little mix-up, my bad. But more importantly for today's discussion, he is a Green Bay Packers fan, as you can see by the sweatshirt. So welcome to the show, Ethan Krasnow.
Thank you.
Do you want to give the viewers out there a little bit of a better introduction?
Sure. So I actually work with Josh's sister. That's how Josh and I met. And only for a couple more weeks until she goes to grad school. But I grew up in Wisconsin. I grew up in Milwaukee. And I grew up a Packer fan. My dad's a diehard Packer fan. We had season tickets. My grandfather had season tickets. We still have season tickets. We actually we sold 2 of the tickets, which looking back was not a great thing to do. But now we're still able to go to games whenever I'm able to go to Wisconsin. I know my parents go to them, but we are huge Green Bay Packers fan. I got Green Bay Packers gear all over my apartment. I wear Green Bay Packers gear regularly. Go Pack, baby. Woo!
All right, got a question from James Garfield. How do you get a Michigan grad off of your front porch? You pay him for the pizza.
Oh my God! Well, listen. The person who sent that in, you may know that Josh's sister went to Michigan. I lived in Ann Arbor for a little while. They win. That's why I root for them. But man, they frustrate me like so much.
But when they come to Happy Valley for the whiteout, no, they don't win.
It's been like that for a long time now, and I'm not sure Harbaugh's ever going to come through on that one.
Oh, by the way, we are Penn State.
Penn State?
I am a huge, diehard Penn State fan.
Oh, my God.
Ever since, the whole Jerry Sandusky story, I just kind of connected to them because of how they've been able to rise up from all the scrutiny and all the sanctions that were placed on them. And they become a fairly solid team. I would say one of the powerhouses in college football.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Of course, my favorite game most recently is when Ohio State came to Penn State in 2016. But
I don't remember that game, but I was living in Ann Arbor at the time, so I wasn't even paying attention to that. But you're right, though. Penn State really has done a good job, and they've turned their whole program around. And James Franklin should really be commended for the work that he's done, for sure.
Right. Sydney says hi, by the way. And
hi, Sydney.
James Garfield responds with, I do know his sister went to Michigan because his wife taught Sydney when she was in 3rd grade.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Always a good connection.
Yeah, I know. So let's get into the main points.
Let's do it.
Obviously, the pandemic is happening right now.
Right.
And you can imagine I'm going a little bit crazy with no live sports. Although the UFC satisfied me a little bit by doing a pay-per-view last Saturday.
Yeah.
But in recent conversations with you say that you think that live sports will not be coming back the rest of the season. So why do you think that is?
It's something that your sister actually got me thinking about. I hadn't really thought about it until she said something about like the fact that she was preparing to not be able to go to Browns games this year.
Yeah.
And I also heard on the radio that a DJ was talking about how when this pandemic is over, there's going to be so much sports happening. You won't even know like what to watch. There'll be so much happening. But I don't know if that's possible to do that many sports, at a time. If you want to finish up the NBA season, are you really going to have everybody come back and try to finish the last few months of the year? I don't see that as possible.
Right.
And also, how do you have people sitting next to each other?
Right.
It's like a revenue stream for organizations, but like they won't be making as much. So do they, set every 6 seats somebody is able to sit? I mean, that's not very fun. I also heard, by the way, that with football games in the fall, that they might pump crowd noise into the games if there's no if they're playing the games and there's no audience, which I guess that would be okay. I mean, how badly do you want sports back, Josh?
Well, fairly badly, because like I said, I'm a diehard sports fan in general, as you can tell by my wall. Like, you can't even see the full thing. I'll push my screen up a little bit. So
my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Packers. I do have the Packers pennant.
Wow.
I'll turn my camera. There it is.
Oh, there it is. I see it.
Right there.
I see it.
I intentionally put it next to the Bears, as you can see.
Intentionally, of course. And the Vikings and the Lions. You've got the whole NFC North.
Yep. I have all the pennants for every single team. I have all the pennants for every single MLB team, every single NBA team.
Wow.
All I'm missing is the NHL, because I'm a huge hockey fan.
Are you?
But with that, there are talks of not necessarily bringing sports back with fans, because right now that just doesn't make sense, like what you were saying. So I don't disagree with that part. But like the NBA is talking about, if they do come back, or like the NHL is talking about the same thing, just skipping the regular season and just going straight into the playoffs. Like the NHL is talking about doing like a 24 team playoff bracket, which I don't know how you get down from 24 to 2. The math doesn't quite add up there. But to even have live sports back to even that extent of just, even if there's no fans in their arena, just to have live sports back, I think would bring a sense of normalcy to the country. Because like normally, at least from my perspective, when you have, a crisis like this, or like, if you look back at the Boston Marathon bombing or 9/11, people flocked to like sporting events because they knew like that would be sports are a great way to get away from reality. Go support your favorite team, whether it's the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau, or the Cleveland Browns at First Energy Stadium, or Seattle Seahawks. You could go on and on. I know I'm just mentioning specifically NFL, but you get my general idea.
Right, but do you think that the level of play will be, like, if you try to get through the NBA, the rest of the NBA season, or NHL season, you have a playoff, don't you think that the way that they play, I mean, they won't be as in good of shape, the level of competition will go down a bit, or is it just like, yes, let's bring some normalcy? I mean, I think people would rather have sports that don't look as good than have no sports at all, probably.
Right. And you do make a valid point, because, if you bring sports back, the players might not be in as good of a shape. So instead of getting like a usual 4-3 game, you might get more of a blowout or something like that.
There was that
in hockey. I mean,
there was that one guy yesterday. He's a pitcher for the Rays.
Oh,
there's also Blake Snell, who also you have an issue there where players are going to say, am I going to put myself at risk and get paid less money? Or are you going to pay me in full, even though we had half a season? I think that's another issue. I think
You're
if you're
exactly right.
I think if you're a good athlete, you want to compete, you want to play. And I think he's, some people would disagree with him. I mean, I get his points. Did you see the interview?
Yeah, I did. And I like what the Major League Baseball is doing, that if they do end up having a season, which I think they will, obviously with no fans.
Yeah.
It would be, like the Indians, for example, would play the Royals, White Sox, Tigers, and Twins, because they're all AL Central. Mm-hmm. And then they would play the National League Central, so St. Louis, Milwaukee, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and my favorite team in all of baseball, the Chicago Cubs. Yeah. I'm sorry, Indians fans, but you can see right here.
See, and you say I'm all over the map. You're a Cubs fan, Seahawks fan, Penn State fan.
Yes, but hey, wait a second. For NFL, I'm a Browns fan first.
Really?
Browns fan first. Yes.
I thought you were a Seahawks fan first.
No, I am. Okay. Browns are my number one team.
Okay.
Seahawks are my favorite NFC team overall.
Okay.
And then this team right here with the horseshoe, they're my favorite team in the AFC South.
Just the AFC South?
Yeah. I love the Indianapolis Colts. Always have, always will.
Huh.
So it's going to be a little bit of difficulty when the Browns host the Colts in week 5 of this season. But that's a different video for a different day.
The Browns season.
Yes. Anyway, so, I would be fine with that. And interestingly, the other thing Major League Baseball was discussing is if they have a season, like I said, it would obviously happen with no fans.
Right.
But they would have the universal designated hitter, meaning for the first time in however many years, the National League would have a designated hitter, because I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm presuming you do. The National League does not use a designated hitter.
Right.
Like in the World Series or during interleague play, when an American League team goes to a National League ballpark, let's say the Indians are at the Dodgers, which I think they were actually supposed to play the Dodgers this season, the pitcher hits. So I think having the designated hitter would create more strategy on both sides.
It's going to be interesting. Maybe the National League will adopt the designated hitter going forward.
Right. So we'll have to see.
In future seasons even, maybe.
Right. So now let's get to the main part.
The meat.
The meat. We just got through the appetizer, so let's get to the meat. The reason you're wearing the Packers sweatshirt. So let's talk about last season for the Packers. First off, obviously,
talk about it.
It didn't end the way you or any cheesehead wanted, getting absolutely shellacked in the NFC Championship game, which I'll admit this, because not just because of how passionate I am about the Seahawks, but because of the possible Super Bowl matchup that we were robbed of. I was disappointed that the Packers lost because, we had Packers at Chiefs earlier in the season on Sunday Night Football.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Mahomes was injured for that game, so we didn't get to see Aaron Rodgers against Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
So overall, though, what was your assessment of the Packers season? Like, did they overachieve in your mind? Did they do about how you expected? Did they underachieve your expectations? How did they do from your perspective?
Well, let's see. First year coach with Matt LaFleur with a 35-year-old quarterback who's one of the greatest of all time.
Yep.
goes 13-3 in his first season. It was very interesting to watch because you don't think that a coach will necessarily be that great in their first season, but he inherited an already relatively good team. I mean, last year in free agency, the Packers picked up the Smith brothers and Darnell Savage, was it, in one day?
Yeah.
And
Darnell Savage with the first pick of the second round.
Oh, that's what it was. And you know, they shored up their defense a little bit.
Yep.
I think that it was a success, but I think they beat teams that weren't that great to get that record. And they also got very lucky. I mean, remember Monday night with the Detroit Lions. And then also you're talking about not in the regular season, but the playoff game against the Seahawks.
Yeah.
The first down, you know, but overall, I would say it's a success. I think Matt LaFleur is going to be changing to a more of a running offense, having picked up a very large running back. I think it was in the second round of the draft this year out of Boston College.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I think it's A.J. Dillon.
A.J. Dillon, yeah, who I had never heard of, but you know, he's a big guy, and I think they picked up a few more pieces, a couple of linebackers from the draft this year. So we'll see. And you still have the Smith brothers.
Yeah.
Here's the issue, though, and we'll get to this. We'll get to this probably in our next topic. We're talking about Jordan Love in the draft. Everyone, you know, it's looking at Aaron Rodgers is now 36.
Correct.
And you know, you're looking at an offense that was really not great, and they still won 13 games last year. Imagine if they had picked up a receiver, which is probably what they should have done.
Right. I agree 100% because Devontae Adams is like your only weapon, and Aaron Rodgers is like, hello, I need some help over here.
Exactly. So let me blow your mind. I don't know if you know this. You probably do because you know the stats on everybody. But Devontae Adams had 5 touchdowns last year. He was their top receiver. He only had 5 touchdowns. And he didn't have a touchdown until like late November, was it? So that's really concerning, right? Because all the other receivers are going to have less than 5 touchdowns. That's not good.
No, it's not.
But it also means though that Aaron Rodgers spreads the ball around. Of course, they played the Raiders in mid October, and he had 5 touchdowns. So
I wish I had started him in that game. On my game.
We both had Rodgers, didn't we, this year?
I don't think you and me were in the same fantasy league.
No. I mean, you had Rodgers and I had Rodgers, and I think we both like on our separate fantasy teams. But
yeah, if we get a football season, we should do a fantasy league.
We should see how you should do an UngarToTheMax league.
Oh, okay.
That could be really cool.
Yeah.
But I think they're missing a piece on offense.
Agreed.
And they could easily. I mean, you think about like Antonio Brown's still out there. I mean,
you really want to take a flyer on that case?
I don't know, but like he's out there. I mean, why not just one more season, get Aaron Rodgers a ring, and you know you can have Antonio Brown around for a year, and then you know go year by year with him. Nobody else is picking him up, and nobody else wants to deal with him.
Yeah, I mean he burned the bridges of 3 of the most iconic franchises in all of the NFL. The Pittsburgh Steelers.
Right.
The then Oakland Raiders. Of course, now they're the Las Vegas Raiders, which is still weird to say. And the New England Patriots. I'm not going to call them the other name that I like sometimes called up. Although, who knows how many of their Super Bowls are actually legitimate.
Oh, conspiracy.
That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to go into any more than that.
Conspiracy theorists.
Yes. I love conspiracy theories.
So do I.
But I just, with the legacy and foundation that the Packers have with, you know, from Vince Lombardi to Aaron Rodgers to Brett Favre, Donald Driver, Charles Woodson. These are all the players and coaches I just mentioned. I'm sure I missed some, but those are the guys I think of right off the bat.
Mike Holmgren, Ron Wolf.
Yes, Jordy Nelson. Like I said, I'm sure I missed some. They're all iconic players and coaches associated with the Green Bay Packers. I wouldn't want Antonio Brown to be on the Packers and risk possibly somehow ruining their legacy. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do. I wonder what is going on in Brian Gutekunst's mind,
right.
The general manager. I don't know what he's thinking, but they got close last year, and right. They lost 3 games, and they lost twice to the same team,
right?
Which is flat out better than them,
right?
In both of those games,
right?
So, they won early. I looked at their schedule from last year. They won early and they won late, but they had a little bit of trouble in the middle. I think it was partly because their defense was having a lot of injuries. We also
pulling up the Packers schedule from last season.
Yeah, go for it. I think that there was they had the Smith brothers both had problems, and what's interesting also is Brian Bulaga, I think, was a free agent, maybe, and he signed with another team. He was part of their offensive line since like 2012 or something.
Oh, this is their regular season schedule for this season. Sorry.
That's okay.
I'll have it pulled up because we'll talk about it anyway.
But I think that they did pretty well last year, and I was impressed. I remember watching the first game against the Bears, and it was a 10-3. And the year before, it was I marked Mike McCarthy's last year. I'm saying, is this the product that they're putting out on the field? And where did they go? They went like 9-7 or something, missed the playoffs.
Right.
And I knew it was going to be time for a new coach for sure.
Right.
So I like Matt LaFleur. I don't know how open and honest he's being with Rodgers. Is he just like kind of, is their relationship good or is it not good? Like, we want to know. The people want to know. But, both of them are very quiet guys. So
right.
It's really, really hard to know.
Right.
For sure.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being like absolutely terrible, 10 being that it was like flawless and all that, how satisfied would you say you were with the Packers last season?
Man, I think I'd give them probably like an 8.
Okay.
And the reason I wouldn't even give them a 9 is because, again, they won games and got lucky on certain games. What I want to see is more scoring. I want to be able to see. I want to have a comfortable lead. And having been a Packer fan for this long and watching Rodgers for as long as I have, I've noticed that he doesn't always do great when he's behind. He tends to throw more interceptions when he's behind. Although you could look at like the game on Thursday night against Detroit back in like 2015, I think it was, where he throws the Hail Mary and it gets caught and they had been down, I don't know, like 21 points in the fourth quarter.
Right. I know what game you're talking about.
So like sometimes he's good, but I want to see more of a comfortable lead. I do want to see probably some better defense.
Right.
I want to see they were able to get to the quarterback a lot more last year, but I think and they had a lot early on. They had games where they were getting good interceptions. I think against Dak Prescott, they had a couple of interceptions, which I just didn't think that they were going to get, and it turned into like a 24-0 lead. But then it ended 34-24. How did the Packers only score 10 more points after the first part of the second quarter?
Right.
And then their defense allowed 24 more points. Like, what happened?
Right.
So I want to see more. That's what would push me to a 9.
That's a fair assessment.
Listen, a 10 would be what, like Super Bowl win?
Yeah. Or I think you could have given them a 10 for if they had even made it to the Super Bowl, because
Oh yeah.
nobody, being that the Chicago Bears had just like dominated the NFC North for the most part last
Mm-hmm.
2 seasons ago, I should say. People were saying, "Oh, this is the Bears division to lose." So I would say, in a way, people kind of forgot about the Packers. So that's why I'm saying, even making it to the Super Bowl, you could have maybe given them a 9 or 10. But you brought up Jordan Love, and like yourself, I was very surprised when Green Bay traded up to take Jordan Love. I'm like, when I saw them trade up to, I believe it was 26.
Mm-hmm.
They traded with Miami. I'm like, okay, they're trading up to get Aaron Rodgers another weapon, whether it was some wide receiver or a tight end, maybe a running back, something like that.
Right.
But then they go and take Jordan Love, and I'm like, what? You were one game away from the Super Bowl. Are you?
It makes no sense.
It really doesn't.
But when you start to look at it, and you sent me this right after, I think the day after the draft, what's really interesting is the comparison between the two. So Love is 6'4" and 219 pounds. He's 21 years old, out of Utah State. And Rodgers is 6'2", 225 pounds, out of Cal. And Rodgers was picked 24th, and Love was picked 26th, both in the first round.
Right.
Love had a lot of records at Utah State, and I watched him play. I personally only watched him play one game, which happened to be against Kent State, where I work, in the bowl game, and he wasn't great. But I remember the announcer saying, "Watch out for this kid! Watch out for this kid! He's going to be something special." And honestly, he didn't look all that thrilled to be drafted by the Packers in the first round. And I wonder if that reason is because he was like, "I'm the next Rodgers." Not in a good way, but in terms of like, I now have to sit for 3 years as Rodgers finishes out his contract. And
I'm looking at
somewhere.
I have his stats pulled up for his good season at Utah State, because in 2019 his stats just fell off because he lost all his weapons and all that.
Yeah.
And by the looks of it, he had some decent games. Like at Michigan State, he completed 29 passes on 44 attempts, so that's not bad.
No, not at all.
Against UNLV, he was 17 of 25. That's also not that bad.
He had 5 touchdowns that game.
Right. So he had some good games. Now, sometimes I would question the decision-making a little bit, but every young quarterback has some questionable throws. You see it all the time. Like, look at Baker Mayfield last season. He had such a promising start to his rookie season, and then it looked like he got hit by a truck last season. I don't know if it was the expectations or what.
Right. And I think I remember this feeling back in 2005 when Rodgers got drafted, and I said to my dad, "Why the heck would they draft a quarterback? They don't need a quarterback." And guess what? They needed a quarterback only a couple of years later. And so, his height, his weight, he was pretty good. So hopefully the Packers organization knows what they're doing, but that was probably the most questionable pick of the first round, I would say. You kind of knew where the pieces were going to fall. But for the Packers, I for sure thought they were going to pick a receiver, and they didn't even draft one receiver at all.
No, they didn't. You're right.
They drafted a couple of tight ends. They drafted defensive guys. Like, they didn't really. I'm at a loss when you're only one game away from the Super Bowl.
Right.
And like, is Jordan Love going to help you beat the San Francisco 49ers this year? No, probably not. But, if Rodgers were to get hurt, I guess, would he be NFL ready? I don't know. I
Right.
don't know if he's going to be a phenom.
So earlier you brought up Dak Prescott,
Mhm.
and we're not going to get into Dallas Cowboys talk because I personally believe they are not America's team. I would say
No, I agree with you.
I would say, and I'm not saying this because you are a Packers fan, but I feel like that the distinction of America's team could either go to the Green Bay Packers or the Pittsburgh Steelers. And interestingly, I mentioned those two teams on purpose because Aaron Rodgers' one championship came against the Steelers. And where was that game? Jerry's World,
Yep.
AT&T Stadium. Did you know? Here's an interesting fact. No, the host team has never made it to the Super Bowl.
I know. I was wondering that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Because
So
I think people thought like there was one year where someone was close, but
the
didn't make it.
Vikings.
The Vikings, yeah.
Yeah. And then they got absolutely thumped by the Philadelphia Eagles.
Was that the Stephon Diggs catch and touchdown?
That was the play you're referring to was in the NFC divisional round against New Orleans.
Yeah.
Yeah, but same year. Which my friends and I have had a debate about this. And we'll get back to the Dallas discussion in 1 second. But my friends and I have had an argument about this.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Super Bowl happens in the year after the season starts. So let's say, like the Kansas City Chiefs,
Mm-hmm.
the season started in 2018, but they won the Super Bowl in 2019, right? So,
right.
Yeah. Or like the Philadelphia Eagles. The season started in 2017, but the Super Bowl was in 2018.
Right.
So sorry, sometimes my head gets ahead of my mouth.
Take your time.
When you're referring to champions and what year they were in, like when you discuss the Philadelphia Eagles, for example, when you discuss the Philadelphia Eagles, for example,
mm-hmm.
Do you call them the 2017 Philadelphia Eagles, or would you call them the 2018 Philadelphia Eagles?
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting because the Super Bowl happens like in the next year.
Right.
And I wonder, was it always that way though? Was it always
that part I'm not sure of.
Because I wonder if the season used to end earlier, like, and then they expanded the schedule, and so then it ended up going into the next year.
Yeah, I don't know.
I typically call them the year that they like when the Packers won, it was 2010 champions. They were the 2010, even though it was 2011 already.
Right. Like, or with the Seahawks, they won the Super Bowl in 2014,
mm-hmm.
but they're referred to as the 2013 Seattle Seahawks.
Right, exactly.
Or if you look at what's another one? The Baltimore Ravens, the Super Bowl was in 2013, but the season started in 2012. So
that was the Harbaugh.
Right. That was a great Super Bowl.
That was, and the lights went out, and we all got an extra hour of Super Bowl.
Yeah, I know. I loved it. But, this whole topic came up because we were talking about, how the Packers won their Super Bowl in Dallas. Mm-hmm. It seems like when the Packers go to Dallas, regular season or postseason, there's some sort of voodoo or something.
Even back to Favre.
Right. Because think about the 2016 playoffs. Cowboys are the number 1 seed. They're hosting the Packers. Right to go to the NFC Championship game.
Yep.
Cowboys, I think, were leading for a majority of that game, if I remember correctly.
No. I think the Packers were winning that whole game.
Oh.
And then their defense.
I think you might be right, actually.
I think they were up like 21-0 or something, and then they had to win they won on a field goal.
I think you're right. Hey, we all make mistakes.
You can't remember every game.
No, I can't. No, I can't.
It's impossible. Though you do know a lot about a lot of games.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate that ringing endorsement.
Yeah, of course. UngarToTheMax. Hashtag.
Yeah, I know. Trying to get to 300 subscribers here. I'm at like 262.
Oh, you're getting close. Hey, anyone listening right now, go subscribe to UngarToTheMax on YouTube.
Yeah. And I will be doing more video collaborations as well. In the future, I'm going to be bringing my friend Joe onto the show. He is a big Carolina Panthers fan.
Awesome.
But that's for a different day. Anyway, because we're talking Packers right now. Which
you could find someone for every team.
I'm going to try and do that, actually.
That's 32 episodes.
No, not quite what I'm going for. For all 16 games of the Browns season.
Oh, there you go.
I'm going to try and find a YouTuber for all 16 games. So a Ravens YouTuber, a Bengals YouTuber, Colts YouTuber, Washington YouTuber. I personally choose not to say Washington's team name. I don't want to get into that whole political discussion because I don't know your feelings about that, and I don't want to create something messy. An Eagles YouTuber, Cowboys YouTuber, Giants YouTuber, Jets YouTuber, although I think I already have that one covered with my friend Gangrene David, a Steelers YouTuber, Raiders YouTuber, and I think that's about it. Oh, Jaguars YouTuber, Texans YouTuber. So if you guys know anybody who could fulfill that role, please leave a comment and let me know.
Yeah.
I think I know a Ravens YouTuber, but I'm not sure about, and a Jets YouTuber, but I'm not sure about like Giants, Bengals, Steelers, Colts, Texans, Raiders. I'm not going to go through the whole list of opponents again.
I'm sure you could hook up with at least, a few of those guys.
Right. Like
gals.
for the Cowboys game, I'm going to try and bring my friend on who I worked with at ESPN Cleveland at Good Karma Brands. Shout out to you guys. Thanks for the opportunity for the internship.
And for people listening, by the way, I do support all Cleveland sports, even if they struggle.
Right.
I was a huge LeBron fan. I haven't been to any sort of indoor hockey game here yet, but hoping to go at some point.
Yep.
I'm an Indians fan and a Brewers fan. I support Cleveland sports for sure.
Yeah. I'm a huge Cleveland Monsters fan, which makes me a big Columbus Blue Jackets fan, coincidentally, or obviously.
Because they're the professional team.
But I kind of wish Cleveland had an NHL team. I think that would be a lot of fun, but I don't know what you would do with the Monsters then.
Right.
So, anyway. So, looking ahead to the Packers' schedule, getting back on topic here.
Yeah.
After that little detour, which I'm totally fine with. If you look at the Packers' schedule, I think there's some interesting games. So we can go through and predict which games we think the Packers are going to win and which games we think the Packers are going to lose. But before we do that, I'd like to go through their schedule, and each of us can choose as many games as we want that we say, this game's intriguing for reasons X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
So
sure.
We'll go back and forth. So I'll pick a game that I find to be intriguing. Then you'll say a game that you find to be intriguing.
For sure.
Okay.
What if we agree?
If we agree, that's fine. So for me, the intriguing game comes right off the bat. Week 3, Sunday Night Football in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. It's Aaron Rodgers against Drew Brees. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you got all these young quarterbacks like Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Deshaun Watson. You got all these young guys. But then you have I don't want to call him old, the savvy vet.
How old is he? He's like 40, right?
Yeah, Drew Brees. But then you have the savvy veterans who are still around and still, can sling the ball down the field and put up these crazy numbers. That's what you're going to get with Packers at New Orleans. So even if there's no crowd noise, which when there's crowd noise in New Orleans, it's crazy. I've watched it on TV. I would love to go to a Saints game, honestly.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. But that's the game that for me that jumps off the bat to start. So what about you?
So I agree with you. And also that is a primetime game. I think you mentioned it. It's a primetime game. It's big. And it's at New Orleans. Now, I'm also going to tell you that I picked out a total of 6 games throughout the season. Like I said, we'll go back and forth on it. Yeah. And what I found interesting about all of them was that they were all away games.
Really? You didn't
and
any home games that were intriguing?
No, and by interesting, I also mean these are probably need to win games too in order to maybe make it to the playoffs.
I like it.
I agree.
Love that.
So I agree with you on the Saints. I agree with you on that one, and that's away. That's in New Orleans. And going back, I got to go backwards just a little bit.
No problem.
The September 13th is the first game of the season, and it's a division game. It's the first time the Packers have ever, I think, played the Vikings as their first game, and it's at Minnesota.
Right.
It is predicted right now that they're not favored to win that game.
Really?
Maybe like a 3.5 point underdog.
Okay.
But there's something about playing a divisional opponent, and then you look at week 2 and they've got the Lions.
Right.
If they lose 2 divisional games off the bat, like that's going to be really hard to recoup.
Okay.
But I think Minnesota, although they did just lose Stephon Diggs, I do think that is an interesting game that I'm probably going to say is a loss right now. So they're going to be 0-1 to start.
Okay. So here's my next intriguing game, which you'll probably mention this one as well. So I'm going to hold off on at Tampa Bay right now, although I will circle that one.
That was my next one.
Which I'll let you have that.
Okay.
But for me, how about this one? Week
Texans.
7 at Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like Aaron Rodgers and Deshaun Watson are both in the same situation now. Because, on Green Bay's side, Aaron Rodgers basically only has Devontae Adams.
Right.
Right?
Who does Deshaun Watson have?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I almost would give the Packers the edge then. And I do still think that the Packers will try to pick up some free agents somewhere.
I agree.
A receiver. But you're right. I mean, they just lost their top receiver, right, to
Arizona for a ham sandwich.
Yeah. What's his name? I don't even remember his name.
They traded DeAndre Hopkins to Arizona for David Johnson and a second-round pick. In other words, a ham sandwich.
That just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
It's Bill O'Brien. What do you expect?
David Johnson, I mean, his relevancy is declining as we speak.
Exactly. But that's why I'm saying week 7 at Houston is an intriguing game for me. Because Aaron Rodgers and Deshaun Watson are both in the same situation. Mm-hmm. And I like Houston's defense, and I like Green Bay's defense. With Green Bay's defense, you talked about the 2 Smith brothers, but I think the key player for the Packers on defense this season is Blake Martinez.
The leader.
Yeah. And for Houston, obviously you have J.J. Watt. Whitney Merciless is still there. So Houston's defense can cause problems. So that's why I'm saying that's an intriguing game. And now we go back to you, and I'm going to predict that Week 6 at Tampa Bay is your next game.
You would be correct.
Brady against Rodgers, classic.
Exactly. That is a key game, but also I think Rodgers has had some success against Brady in the past.
Not the last time they played.
Not the last time, but Brady is now going to be in a warmer environment.
Yes.
It's going to be humid there still on October 18th. And it's intriguing to me also that it's a 3:30 game. I don't know why it's a late game since it's on the East Coast.
I think I know why, because it's Rodgers against Brady, so they want a larger audience.
It says it's on Fox, so it's probably going to be the headlining game with Troy Aikman and Joe. Yeah,
Troy Aikman.
Yeah, and notice it's at Tampa Bay. So the 4 games that we've talked about, Saints, Vikings, Tampa Bay, Houston, all away games.
Right. And we will mention some home games.
We won't mention some home games, but also you talk about the crowd noise, right? And like if it's being pumped in, that might not even matter. Like it might not matter whether there's a crowd or not. It might actually give favor to the away team. We don't know what that would look like. Although unless they're pumping fan noise into the actual game itself and that the players can hear that as well. But man, wouldn't that be weird to play in an empty stadium? I feel like that'd be just like practice. But anyway, I digress.
So here comes another away game for you. Week 9, I'm sure this is what you were going to mention, and I'll let you mention it, even though I'm talking about it now. Thursday night football, Week 9 in the Bay Area. You thought I was going to go to this game, Week 11 at Indianapolis. I'm saving that one. I will get to that. But Week 9, Thursday night football at San Francisco. Yep. You guys will be coming off of a short week, having played most likely a very physical, low-scoring divisional game against Minnesota. Mm-hmm. And then you have to get ready for another difficult defense with Nick Bosa, Richard Sherman. I had to think about that for a second. And many other guys for the 49ers defense. And we all saw the NFC Championship. I believe Garoppolo only threw it like 8 times.
They had that one running back who just sliced through the defense.
Right.
He had like 3 or 4 touchdowns.
Right.
It was bad. No, I agree with you. And again, at San Francisco, I don't know who the NFL scheduling, made their schedule very, very difficult this year.
Right. Well, that's what happens when you are a first place team and you get the number 2 seed.
For sure.
But I have a major problem with the Week 9 game at San Francisco, which is that, as I mentioned, it is a Thursday night game.
Right.
Why?
Yeah, why? But I mean, make that a prime game. Make that a Sunday night or a Monday night game.
Yes.
I mean, do the Packers even have like one Monday night game the whole season? I don't even understand that.
That's right here, Week 4
against the Falcons. Why?
I don't know. They think Matt Ryan's going to be good.
What?
And not blow a 28-3 lead. Although that was more because of Kyle Shanahan.
Oh God. And it happened to him again. Poor guy.
Yeah. But just in general, I hope you agree with me on this, but if you don't, that's okay. The NFL needs to get rid of Thursday night football.
You think so?
Yes. Because it gives you more football, but at the same time, you're making teams play on a short week.
Yeah.
You're not letting their bodies prepare, or you're not letting a player's body heal fully, or I would say you're also taking away preparation time from a team. especially if they have to travel like Green Bay does, because Green Bay will most likely travel to San Francisco for that game on, I would say,
Monday
or Tuesday.
Yeah.
Which means you only have essentially like 2 days max to get ready for a difficult 49ers team. Are you kidding?
Right. You also have to think about the time too. You go back 4 hours or 2 hours from
Correct.
Wisconsin. So there's that time difference as well, and that acclimation.
Right.
I tend to agree with you. Plus, you're like in the middle of the week if you have school or work, and you might not be able to watch it.
Right.
I don't understand it, so I'm kind of with you in terms of like, or maybe it doesn't need to be every week.
Right. Right. Sorry. Keep going.
I was just say every other week maybe, but
Right.
it doesn't need to be all the time. Also, the Niners versus the Packers, this matchup that like has been going on forever. I mean, it became a big thing back in the 90s with Favre and Montana, and then Steve Young. It was a big thing. I mean, this will probably still be a big game. And since it's week 9 and we're talking about all these hard games that the Packers have, they're kind of at a disadvantage also going on a short week and traveling to a place where I'm sure Rodgers has a little bit of, thinking back to last year and being like, oh my God, this is terrible. And he's probably going to want to throw the ball because Matt LaFleur was trying to run it and it wasn't working. And
right.
What did they score total in those 2 games that they played San Francisco? They had 8 the first game and like 10 in the second game.
I want to say they had 20 in the second.
Or 20. Yeah, they were playing catch up.
Right. Yeah.
So
and the first time they played them, that game wasn't originally scheduled to be a Sunday night game. It got flexed into a Sunday night because of the ramifications, which I don't remember exactly what they were.
Yeah.
But the only time I think I'm okay with Thursday night football is that 2-game stretch when teams play on Thanksgiving, and then if you're the 2 teams that have the Thursday night afterwards, which I think for this upcoming season is the Ravens and the Cowboys, because the Cowboys host a Thanksgiving game every year, just like the Lions.
Right.
And the Ravens will be playing on Thanksgiving against the Steelers. So
it's almost like that's a whole thing with Thanksgiving too. I just don't see the need to have 3 games.
I do. I love it.
Is that what you do on Thanksgiving?
Well, I make my own Thanksgiving dish every year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Oh, nice.
I can't really give away the secrets of it. All I'll say is that I use a lot of root vegetables and I make my own broth.
Oh.
But I might be changing it this year. So
nice.
We'll see, to like roasted carrots and something like that. So anyway, but I like the 3 games on Thanksgiving. But for my next game, actually I'm going to hold off on the Colts game. And I'm actually going to go to a Packers home game. Week 13 against Philadelphia.
Interesting.
That's an intriguing game to me because the Eagles are obviously coming off winning the NFC East, although the NFC was absolutely terrible last season.
Yep.
Worst division in football. NFC West, I would argue, was the best division in football and will be the best division in football this season. But the reason I'm circling that Eagles-Packers game is because, like I said, they both won their division last season. So they both have first-place schedules.
Mm-hmm.
And when they played each other, I believe it was week 4 of Thursday Night Football, the Packers had a chance to, I think it was either –
they flubbed it.
Right.
But there was also a bad call in that game, I think.
True. But I hate to say this because, sometimes you got to cut the refs some slack, but there's bad calls in every game. There's controversial calls in every game. Like, obviously, when you think of, well, I shouldn't say obviously. When you say controversial calls in the NFL, my guess is most people are going to go right to the NFC Championship game with that no call.
Yep.
Which caused the rule change for the pass interference, which I think I saw that rule is going away for this season. So
I think I saw something about it.
Yeah, I think I saw that rule is going away. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, and I, will absorb that. But the Eagles were able to come in and beat the Packers in that game. So
right, they were.
Are the Eagles on the rise? Are they, getting back to where they were when they won the Super Bowl? By
the way, they also didn't they just draft a quarterback too?
Jalen Hurts.
Which may, you say that your franchise quarterback was Carson Wentz.
Correct.
I'm not sure what the move was there.
So, what I've heard is that the Eagles are going to use him as a gadget player, like what New Orleans does with Taysom Hill. But it's not the same because New Orleans did not draft Taysom Hill.
Right.
If I remember correctly, I think he was originally drafted by the Packers, Taysom Hill, and then cut by Green Bay, and New Orleans picked him up and said, hey, we want to use you as a gadget player. And he's like, okay.
Right. And they traded, they got rid of or I think he was a free agent, Teddy Bridgewater.
No, Teddy Bridgewater was with New Orleans last season, as well as Taysom Hill.
But Teddy Bridgewater he signed with a different team this year, didn't he?
Right, yes.
Can't remember which team.
Carolina.
Yes, Carolina.
Yeah, which the Packers also play the Panthers.
I know.
Yeah.
They're playing a lot of the same teams they played this year.
Right. Well, that's because the NFC North is playing the NFC South.
Right.
But anyway, getting back to the Packers-Eagles, or Eagles-Packers, I should say, it's an intriguing game because it's going to be on CBS, which most likely means Jim Nantz and Tony Romo.
Mm-hmm.
But
you like Tony Romo?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
I didn't like him at first, but
yeah. But it's an intriguing matchup of two different styles of offense because you have the more aggressive Doug Peterson, obviously going for it on fourth downs, Philly special, took down the Empire, at least for that season.
Yeah.
And then you have, I don't want to say more conservative approach of Matt LaFleur, but I can't really think of a better word because like you said earlier, he wants to get back to, running the ball more and all that. So I can't really think of a better word than conservative. So I just like that matchup of the style. I like the stylistic matchup.
I don't know. I wonder if he's trying to run the ball more just because either A, they don't have any receivers, and they don't want to develop them, or B, because they're trying to get it so that when the weather is cold, they can win down the stretch.
Right.
The problem with that is that you have to have great running backs, and they do. I mean, Aaron Jones was one of the top running backs last year.
It was fun to watch him play.
Yeah, and you're looking at, this is an outdoor game. This is in Green Bay, early December, although I don't know. It hasn't really been cold as of recent years. And not only that, the sun's not going to be out because it's a 3:25 game. So if the sun's going to be going down at Green Bay, it could be really, really cold.
Right.
So, gripping the ball is a lot harder to throw it rather than keeping it tucked under, which a running back could do. So I wonder if that's Matt LaFleur. He came from kind of that offensive background.
I see.
So, that could be what he's thinking. But I still feel the Packers are still probably one game away.
Right.
And that, they'll probably, if the Eagles are good, I could see them seeing the Eagles again in the playoffs.
Yeah, which we'll get to the playoff format in a second. But what's your next intriguing game?
My next game, let's see.
Because I see you have a trusty list over there.
So this is my last one.
Okay.
This is January 3rd. So now we're in 2021.
January
3rd, final game of the season.
Oh, you're at Chicago?
At Chicago. You're talking, I mean, they've historically done this over the last few years to end with a divisional game.
Yep.
That game could be for the division. That's going to be really cold, most likely. Could be snowing. It's right after New Year's. I mean, this could be a brutal game. I mean, I hope we don't get to the point where this is a must-win game,
right?
Or win out sort of situation. But divisional games in January, I mean, you're looking at low scoring, probably needing to run the ball, and it could. And it's a 12:00 game, so I guess the sun will be out this time. But you never know what could happen when you're going to Chicago in January.
Right. So
that's my last game.
Okay. Well, the NFL has done that over the last few seasons of ending the season with a divisional game, which I like. But I remember, I believe it was in 2013.
Yep.
It was Packers at Bears. Winner goes to the playoffs as the NFC North champion. The loser goes home.
Yep.
Packers-Bears is one of the best rivalries in the NFL. I don't know if I would say it's the best rivalry, because there are a lot of good rivalries, of which I would not include Browns and Steelers in there. Because the Browns,
Michigan, Ohio State.
Michigan, Ohio. Well, I'm talking about specifically NFL rivalries.
Okay.
Yeah, but Ohio State Michigan's a pretty good rivalry, although Michigan hasn't won since 2011. Sorry, Sydney.
Sorry, Sydney.
Michigan fans are going to argue that in 2016 it wasn't a first down. Boo-hoo.
It wasn't.
No, I shouldn't have brought that up.
We were robbed.
Well, as a Penn State fan, I was fine with that because it allowed us to win the Big Ten East and go to the Big Ten Championship. So thank you, Ohio State. That's the only time as a Penn State fan I will say thank you to Ohio State. Otherwise, I absolutely despise them. But that's a different discussion for a different day.
Yeah, you should have a Michigan Ohio State show one time.
Or like Ohio State Penn State show.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. So I have a lot of games that I'm thinking about choosing, like this Week 16 Sunday night game against Tennessee. That could be an intriguing game.
Yeah.
Week 15 at or home against Carolina. To be determined. That's either going to be a Saturday game or a Sunday game. Either way, I think that's going to be an intriguing game because you got Christian McCaffrey and this new Panthers offense, with Matt Rule, and I believe it's Joe Brady from LSU coming in, and the Panthers really loaded up on defense. So I think that's going to be an intriguing game. But my final intriguing game, Week 11 at Indianapolis. I'm sorry, I had to do it.
Well, Phillip Rivers,
Yeah, right. And, the Colts just drafted Jacob Eason, so who knows when he'll be in. I kind of wish the Packers were playing the NFC or AFC East, because I would love to see the Packers against that Buffalo defense. But anyway, getting back to the Colts. I would say historically, not just for the Packers, but for any team, it seems to be difficult to go into Indianapolis and win. Mostly because you're, over the past few seasons, you were playing either Andrew Luck or before he retired, unexpectedly, I would say. And before that, you had Peyton Manning. And the Colts always seem to have an extra edge to them when they're playing at home. Although you can say that for any team, really.
And they did well last year, relatively so.
Yeah. Like 2 seasons ago, they had an unexpected run in the playoffs before they just fell apart against the Chiefs in the divisional round. But I like what the Colts are doing. Like they drafted they didn't draft Marlon Mack this season. My bad. They drafted Jonathan Taylor, the running back out of Wisconsin. So that gives them a nice 1-2 punch.
I think that's a steal.
With him and Marlon Mack. Oh, I was so happy when the Colts got him. I'm like, oh, please, football.
I'm guessing other teams passed up on him because he didn't really have that great of a season down the stretch. He had at the beginning of the season, he had a better stretch.
Right. And going back to Jordan Love for a second, I can't confirm or deny this, but I've heard reports that the Colts were interested in trying to trade up to that number 26 pick, which originally belonged to the Dolphins, to take Jordan Love. So maybe Green Bay did it kind of to block Indianapolis. So to me, that adds a little more intrigue to this game. But it's another one of those battle of the veterans. Because on one side, you have Aaron Rodgers, who's been to the Super Bowl and won his Super Bowl against the Steelers. And then on the other side, you have Phillip Rivers, who, got hosed in that 2004 draft because he was also in the draft class with Ben Roethlisberger and Eli Manning. And they both have been to Super Bowls. They both have won Super Bowls. Whereas Phillip Rivers has never even sniffed the Super Bowl. Doesn't know what it's like to play in it. Doesn't know what it's like to win it. I think the closest he got was the AFC Championship against the undefeated Patriots. So that's why it's an intriguing game for me.
They made it a couple of years ago too, also against the Patriots, and they were terrible.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about in the divisional round.
Yeah, and Phillip Rivers he's old. I'm not sure why the Colts wanted to pick him up. I weren't there rumors at one point that he might be going to Tampa Bay?
Yeah, I heard those rumors, so I don't know.
They don't have a quarterback, moving forward. They have no future.
They might. Well, maybe they view Jacob Eason as their future.
I don't know. It seems more short term to me. But with Jonathan Taylor, you could build around that for sure.
Right. So I just think stylistically, the Colts and Packers are going to be similar this season because I think both teams are going to want to run the ball first. Mm-hmm. And I think both teams have the offensive line to do it, although I think Green Bay's offense needs a little bit of work in terms of being able to not only protect Aaron Rodgers, but also being able to get to the second level and, make holes for the running backs. Because when you're able to run the ball, not only do you establish yourself on the ground, but it also brings the linebackers and safeties down into the box. And now, as the quarterback, you can pick off,
right.
You can use your tight end in the middle of the field.
Exactly.
That's what Kansas City did in the Super Bowl. They used Damian Williams to run as a running back to create holes, to set up the big passing plays for Mahomes, which is why, as I end the screen sharing, which is why I say I personally think Damian Williams should have won Super Bowl MVP over Patrick Mahomes, despite some of the amazing plays that Patrick Mahomes had, like the 11-step drop pass that he had, which I'll admit, that was amazing. I'm not discrediting Patrick Mahomes in any way. Not doing that. All I'm saying is did he really have the biggest impact on the game?
No, I think you're right. It was a great Super Bowl though, because
Yeah.
the year before we had a terrible Super Bowl and it was very
Yes.
boring. So
We were absolutely robbed because the Patriots, there were some terrible calls in that game. Like, I still say to this day, that ball hit Julian Edelman's thumbs on that. So that should have been Chiefs' ball. In what world is it roughing the passer when you hit a guy's shoulder?
right.
Now,
Right.
the deep forward play, why were you lined up offside?
You're talking about but also the questionable calls.
Right, like the pass interference call, or the no pass interference call, I should say.
It was a poor game overall, and it gave Tom Brady probably his last ring, I would think.
Yeah, but
more than likely,
the road we took to get to that Super Bowl was fun, and it was filled with controversy. But like I said earlier, every game's gonna have an element of controversy.
Yeah, you're right.
If you look at the NFC Championship game from the Packers Seahawks, I'm sure you could find an element of controversy there. Like, I don't know, the Super Bowl, like, the controversy is, why didn't the Seahawks run the ball? Like, why did they pass it?
Right.
And which
Pete Carroll still has his job.
Right. But if I may, let me present my reasoning for that. My reasoning is that the Seahawks had just run the ball to get down to the 1 yard line. So they were most likely expecting New England to be in some sort of run stopping defense. So they're like, okay, let's try and throw them off with a pass. And my guess would be 9 times out of 10, that play works. It was just the one time it doesn't work, Malcolm Butler was in the right place at the right time, and it just so happened to be in the Super Bowl.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
That was one of the most crazy plays you probably ever seen in the Super Bowl, aside from maybe Julian Edelman catching that one ball.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Off the tips of his fingers. Don't know how he did that either, but
along with the Philly special.
And the Philly special. Yeah, there's been some great moments in the Super Bowl. You get there, you just got to try some stuff sometimes,
Right. Like we were talking about we were briefly talking about Super Bowl MVPs earlier. The 11-yard step drop pass that Mahomes made, I believe it was to Tyreek Hill. Yeah. So, or like Jacoby Jones run back in Super Bowl 47. Every Super Bowl, or I shouldn't say every Super Bowl, but
most.
Yeah, I would agree. What's the most iconic Super Bowl play that you can think of? If you had to name one.
I don't know. There's just been so many good ones. I mean,
in recent Super Bowls, I could say let's shrink it down to between Super Bowl 40 and where we are.
Well, so I'm being a little biased here, obviously being a Packer fan, but the Packers, when they played the Steelers
in Super Bowl 45, okay.
Super Bowl 45, yeah. There was a moment, and this was on NFL Films, where the linebackers coach, Kevin Green, says to Clay Matthews, "Now's your time." And he goes out there, he somehow punches the ball or did he punch the ball, or he caused a fumble and then recovered the fumble. And it changed the tide of the game, because I think the Packers were down in that game and they were able to come back and secure the victory. And without that fumble recovery, I'm not sure the Packers would have won.
Okay.
But I guess I've been spoiled though, right? Because now as I've been alive, I've seen two wins. But I guess if you live in Boston, you've been real spoiled, and you probably won't have that for a long, long time.
No.
So I would say that play is iconic to me in my recent memory.
Okay, how about what if you take your Packers bias out of it? Then what play would you say?
God, I think the one off the top of my head is that Julian Edelman play.
Ooh, okay. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
Well, or what was the Super Bowl against the Giants where
the
helmet catch? That was pretty incredible too.
Yeah. One of the luckiest plays I've ever seen in the Super Bowl, but aren't we all glad it happened?
We are. I was sad though. I would have loved to have seen. It was sad from you win all the games and then you lose the one game you need to win.
I think for most football fans, we're like
happy.
Yeah, because I would say most NFL fans, I don't want to say all because obviously there are Patriot fans, but most NFL fans, I would say, hate the Patriots. So
yeah. And that's who the Packers beat in 1996 was the Patriots. Drew Bledsoe.
Yep. But for me, I got to say either the helmet catch, I have to say, I got to throw Philly special in there.
Yeah.
There's so many. The Santonio Holmes touchdown against Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
Or the James Harrison interception.
Yep.
Gosh.
That's why the game of football is so exciting because anything could happen on any play.
Right. Although I've made videos about this. If you, in terms of unpredictability, not the league, just talking about the game itself, I would say the number one most unpredictable game is hockey.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would put baseball 2. I would put football 3 and basketball 4.
What about soccer?
I'm not including that for this discussion. But I would put, if I had to include soccer in there, oh geez, I would put soccer right up there with hockey and baseball.
With hockey, I knew you'd say that.
Yeah.
Because it's very similar.
Right, because with hockey and baseball, actually, because it's interesting that you brought it up, you don't know, if you're going to see the goalie make a great save, or, in soccer, you don't know if you're going to see, a midfielder or a striker, whatever, be able to score a goal from, midfield. Or with hockey, you might see an amazing breakaway. Or with hockey also, you don't know if you're going to see a game that adds up to over 100 penalty minutes. That type of thing. Whereas with football, I understand. I totally see what you're saying about the unpredictability. But it's kind of at the same time, you do have an idea of what you're going to see because it's just going to be the quarterback's handing it off or the quarterback's throwing a pass, and on the other side, the defense is trying to,
strategy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do see what you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing.
Football is the best sport, I think.
I would argue you on that one.
What's your number one?
For a while, it was basketball, but the NHL and hockey have passed it.
That's your number one?
Hockey is my
number
one now. Yep. I found a big reason for that are my friends Colin Anderson, Chris Link, and Jonathan Swalina, and also Matt Joseph. We kind of formed this little group where we went to a lot of Monsters games throughout the season.
Mm-hmm.
And I just came to the realization, actually it was way before this, when the Monsters were, at the time they were called the Lake Erie Monsters.
Mm-hmm. They
had the Calder Cup title run in 2016, and I went to a couple of those playoff games, including the game 4, when Oliver Bjorkstrand put in the game-winning goal with 2.9 seconds left in overtime. to win the Calder Cup, and I just fell in love with the game. I think I lost my voice at that game, which is a rarity, actually. That might be a shocker to you.
That doesn't shock me at all.
No, I'm saying it's a rarity for me to lose my voice at games.
Is it really?
Yeah, but Calder Cup Finals 2016 Game 4, Hershey Bears against Lake Erie Monsters was one of the rare times I lost my voice. And from then on, I just kind of fell in love with hockey because I'm just like, this is such a great sport. Because you can get, like I said, you can get a game that ends 1-0 in overtime, or a game that ends like 7-3, a game that ends like 2-1. You might
shoot like with a shootout or
right.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just like the element of knowing a little bit of what you're going to be seeing on an ice rink, but at the same time, not really knowing what you're going to see.
It's also really fun to be at a game. I grew up with the Admirals.
Oh, Milwaukee Admirals.
Yeah, Milwaukee Admirals.
Affiliate of the Nashville Predators.
Exactly. So I went to a few games as a kid, and they're really fun.
Yeah, they are. I'm surprised Milwaukee doesn't have an NHL team.
I know, because they're, in the Wisconsin, it's cold and
right. I've heard that it has something to do with the Chicago Blackhawks putting in some sort of rule or something that says a team can't be within a certain distance of them. But I don't know for sure.
I wonder if that's like an NHL rule.
I don't know, but
I don't know much about the NHL. How many teams are in?
There are 31, but there's soon to be 32 because Seattle is going to be added.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I wonder do you think that if, hypothetically, let's say Cleveland, like the NHL announced, Cleveland, you're getting an NHL team. Do you think fans would support them?
Oh, for sure. One thing I've noticed about Cleveland folks is that they support their teams, whether they're doing good, bad, or ugly.
AKA the Cleveland Browns.
Well, when you're having a parade after going 0-16, I mean, like you really support your team. And then, after that season, like they actually turned it around a bit. And I think you were at that game that they turned it around, weren't you? It was a Thursday night game.
Against the Jets. Yes, I was.
Yeah, and I watched that game, and Cleveland Cavaliers, like, of course, we still support them after LeBron leaves, and they're still in a rebuilding phase and giving the team to Kevin Love.
Right.
I mean, Cleveland people support no matter what, and that's a special thing.
Right, but if Cleveland got an NHL team, what would happen to the Monsters? I don't know.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what would happen. Do they play at the
They play at Rocket Mortgage, yes.
Rocket Mortgage?
Yeah. It's all hypothetical, but it's just something I like to think about. So, this is
interesting to think about. Yeah. Yeah.
This is fun for me. Plus, I think on top of that, you have a growing Blue Jackets fan base in Cleveland, and I think that's due to the Monsters now being the affiliate of the Blue Jackets, which that started in 2016.
Which is really cool.
Yeah. Because before that, the Monsters were actually affiliated with the Colorado Avalanche.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have Pittsburgh Penguins fans in Cleveland. You have Detroit. I would bet that there are Detroit Red Wings fans in Cleveland and Chicago Blackhawks fans in Cleveland. So, and plus, when you go to a Monsters game, let's say they're playing the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, affiliate of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Hopefully you were able to figure that one out. You're not just going to see fans of the Monsters / Blue Jackets, and you're not just going to see Penguins fans. You might see people in God forbid, a Boston Bruins jersey. Ugh, I hate the Boston Bruins. Especially after last season. They made me cry.
You know more than I do.
But you might see somebody in a San Jose Sharks jersey or somebody in a St. Louis Blues hat, something like that. So to me, that's what that says is there are NHL fans in Cleveland.
For sure.
Yeah, so I think
Maybe,
it would be interesting.
Maybe one day.
Yeah, plus it could potentially create a battle of Ohio, Columbus against Cleveland.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is very true.
I love how this video was supposed to just be Green Bay Packers, but we've kind of gone all over the place.
And that's okay. You got to take it where the show goes.
Exactly. And we've had great conversations from talking about Jordan Love to Jalen Hurts to intriguing games on the Packers schedule, which we forgot to go and talk about win-loss, but that's okay. I think what we did was more fun.
For sure.
Oh, we didn't give final record predictions for the Packers. We forgot.
You want my prediction?
Yes.
Including when they go out or if they make it all the way?
Just regular season.
Regular season? I think probably they have so many hard away games. I would say probably 11-5.
Okay.
More than likely, or 12-4. But I always hope every year that they'll go undefeated.
I think every fan hopes their team goes 16-0.
Of course.
Yeah.
What about you?
I'm gonna say 10-6 for the Packers.
Okay,
so,
we're right in the same range.
Right. But you were asking me about should we include playoffs or not. So I'm curious what your take on the new playoff format is, because only the number 1 seed is going to have a bye. The number 2 seed is going to have to play a game. Because you know about the new playoff format, correct?
Yeah, a little bit, but I don't know. I'm kind of old school.
But you don't like the new playoff format then? I take it.
Not really. I think,
right, because your Packers would have had to play the Rams last season.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not a fan of a change like that. That just, it adds more thrill, but
it does.
You can also say, like, didn't the CBA just approve another regular game regular game during the season too, which is gonna make it even
go into effect until next season, I believe.
Not next season, but imagine that number 2 seed now has to play an extra game, essentially 2 extra games that they haven't had to do over the last, forever, because it hasn't been put into existence. But right. I think that it's a definite disadvantage, but I also see advantages to it, right? Because then you don't have a week off. Right. And the disadvantage may really go towards the number 1 seed who won't have played.
Right.
So but if you're that
cons to it,
if you're that good, then you should be able to win, I guess. But
right.
I don't know. We'll see. I feel like from watching the Packers over the years, they're better when they haven't had a bye.
Yeah.
That's just my thought.
NFC North is going to be interesting this season. Like, who's going to be the quarterback for the Bears? Is it going to be Trubisky? Is it going to be Nick Foles? What type of team are the Detroit Lions going to be? Like,
did they draft a quarterback?
I don't think so.
No?
I thought my bold prediction for the draft was actually that the Lions would surprise everybody with the number 3 pick and take a quarterback, but they didn't. They took Jeff Okudah, the cornerback out of Ohio State. But
it's crazy.
I thought maybe the Lions would take a quarterback to push Matthew Stafford a little bit. I do like their the one running back I really like for the Lions, and I'm being a little bit biased because he went to my favorite SEC team, and that's Kerryon Johnson because he's an Auburn Tiger.
Mm-hmm.
War Eagle. So you can guess which team I hate the most in the SEC. That team.
Alabama.
Yeah. That team from Tuscaloosa. Yeah.
I was gonna say though, Auburn in 2013 was it beat Alabama?
Kick six.
That was a great play. I saw it live. You see it live?
Yes, I wish I had been at Jordan Hare Stadium, but
Of course.
I believe my family, we had friends I want to say from Tampa Bay in for that weekend. Shout out to the Mills family. Love you guys. Hopefully we'll be down in Tampa Bay soon for whatever.
A Brady game.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to be doing, like I said, I'm going to be doing a collaboration like this with a Carolina Panthers fan. His name's Joe Harbasevich. That'll probably be sometime next week. The Browns played the Panthers in Carolina, not next season, but the season after that. So I'm hoping to fly down to Charlotte and go to that game with him.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So I think it's just about time to wrap it up. I think I had a good time doing this with you. How about you?
I had a great time. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we should do this more often.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for tuning in. And we will see you next time on the Sports Room. Bye-bye, everyone.